Evelyn,
We have a quorum now. And you may begin at 5:30.
Oh, can you see me?
no?
No,
But you can hear me.
we can
Yes?
hear you.
I don't know why I'm not coming on the screen. I'm doing everything that's supposed to. Sorry.
I just asked you to start your video. Maybe that'll help. You should
Oh.
see a notification. There we go.
Oh, hooray.
Says,
Everyone.
Okay, it's 5:30. I call this meeting of the Measure J Commission to order. Do you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation.
one nation, under God,
Nation,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Nobody else is coming, right?
No.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Fruder, Commissioner Robin,
Yes, here.
and Commissioner Craig.
Here,
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to acceptance of the agenda?
so moved.
I second.
Okay. Do we have approval of the minutes from the special meeting of June 8th, 2022?
I so move.
I second it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Public comment. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Measure J Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Whether the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned for each speaker. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, it's going to be a quick meeting, I think. Welcome. So I think we had a few things I had wanted to add to review for future meetings, but I can do that during the commissioner comments. And when we all talk after we go through the updates, I did just want to say that as the commission, obviously, this is going to be a difficult time for staff with the city manager leaving. And we sort of feel for all of you, and we will try not to be too demanding and be helpful more than, as much as we can during the transition period. And I'm glad we made terrific progress in the last meetings. And I think there's a lot, we have a lot that we discussed and a lot that's on the agenda and a lot of plans. And I know it's going to be sort of difficult to execute them all, but at least we got through most of the process, and we have set aside funds for projects that we hope to complete. So I'm sorry, I know it's not an easy transition, and we'll do what we can to help. If there is anything. Yes, Commissioner Craig?
Yes, could you tell us who the gentleman at the bottom of the screen is?
Chris. You've met Chris.
He's usually in a suit.
And
Okay.
a tie. But Brian told me I couldn't wear ties anymore, so I'm not wearing ties.
Okay, thank you very much.
I said,
Hi, nice to see you. Thank you.
Okay, do we want to do a Measure J budget update, please?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to say is thank you, everybody, for your time and effort that you put into the Measure J. And I just want to let you know the processes. So I got a little pushback from the last two items. One was for the joint meeting. One was for the dinner we had. And then also we had to put together the slides for the dinner. So I get direction from the city manager who gets it from council. And as soon as I am notified, I try to notify you guys immediately. And the first time they told me the PowerPoint was due on Wednesday. The next thing I know, they told me it's Tuesday. I just do what I'm told to do.
Yeah.
So I
I
appreciate
will,
it.
just to comment on that meeting, I thought it was a great concept and unfortunately, everybody had a different idea of what they were supposed to do. And so it was an interesting first one. I think, if they do it again, it'll be good to have it more sort of streamlined because some people gave their whole history, some people gave a few key points and we sort of did a little recap. So, but it was a good measure, something to do.
That's what made it unique. Everybody had a different story to tell. Okay, with the budget update, as you can see, the 2021 revenues were 12.4 million and the 21-22 are at 16.3 million. That is a 3.8 million over the prior fiscal year. We do anticipate the revenues coming in on target of our estimated amounts. At this time, do you have any questions for me?
So there's still another month to come through?
2 months. Because we're 2 months behind on sales taxes.
Oh, okay, all right, so this is
So we
just,
might even be a little higher, but we noticed just recently that the revenues are just starting to dip a little over last fiscal year in June.
Yeah.
So we just want to be cautious again and leave the numbers out there. If it does come in higher, we can always regroup and do a mid-year adjustment.
at 3.8 million, 31% is terrific.
Yeah,
Yeah, gosh.
that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
No, so just for next year's budget, after we did everything that we said, there's 4 million that's unallocated for next year. And also out of the that was one question. Then the community projects are in there as 3 million.
Correct. Well, in the past, I've kind of had them, I left them in the year that they were budgeted, but we never spent them. And I reduced that from the unexpended and made it 3 million this year. So when we look at it, we're like, oh yeah, we have 3 million, not trying to figure out what we did in the past years.
Right. So
So
out of the
hopefully this
actual projects that we did, we only ended up with like 1.6 in the community projects. I think that's right. And the rest, we had actually said we wanted to get input from the Parks and Rec because we had put almost all of theirs aside. So that is something that we can discuss also in terms of the schedule for going forward. But now that we have a new Parks and Rec her title, I'm not sure.
She's the
Um,
director of Parks and Recs and her name is Yvonne.
Yeah, Yvonne. So, so the point is that we were presented all these projects, so we might, and we also have another discussion that we can talk about allocating money going forward, set aside for parks. So it would be ideal if we had her input, recognizing that she just started and will take a bit of time anyway. But we may want to be able to meet or explain or go through how our budget works so that she knows what they could potentially come to Measure J for. Does that
And
make
that's
sense?
something that Joelle and Chris and I can meet with her with and go through the process with her so that when we do invite her, she understands the concept and maybe bring some ideas to the table.
Yeah, and we can show her what's been submitted and again, recognizing that just because there's funds doesn't mean there is resources and staff to get everything done right away, but okay, well, I think it was good. And I think, there's a number of things in the budget that are set asides that are not actual expenses, which probably makes a lot of sense in the event of a recession. I'm going to just say slow down. Okay, well, that's great. Do we want to go on to the year one Measure J projects? Okay. Anything you want to add? Oh, this is just basically what we discussed last time, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so for engineering, I didn't want to just be left out. I was struggling. I wasn't going to include anything, so I just included what it's in my 5-year CIP showing year one Measure J projects. And if you will, one of them is the $6 million project for pavement rehab construction. That one is going to council for at least approval to start that on the 28th, so the next council meeting. So you can see immediately you've allocated the money, and within 28 days, we're already spending it. We're going to town to try to move that project forward. So immediately we're moving that $6 million being spent of Measure J. Another project that's closed would be the ball field lighting project. So that's, I believe it was 3-4 million. Let me see.
4.1,
What's that?
4.1.
Yeah, so that one also, there it is, 4.1. We're getting close to having those plans approved, and we might be, within the next 2 months, we might spend $10 million in Measure J funds, just like that with those two projects. So
Mhm.
from a perspective of, community projects and the workload that we have, Don and I have already sat and distributed most of those projects, community initiative projects, put them on a project manager's table so they can start looking at it. The other issue is with projects that aren't really engineering associated, we need to work with our city attorney. I know Finance Nancy is working to try to come up with agreements. So like the Mizell Center, they want to use the funds, right? How do we use them? What processes do we put in place to make sure they're using the money appropriately? So I think Nancy is working with our city attorney to come up with some agreements. So as far as nothing really changed. I think we did a lot of work to get the budget approved, lots of plans, lots of projects, lots of money. I'm looking to hire folks, so that's sort of where I'm at.
Wonderful.
That's
Mhm.
great.
I
That's
can answer
great.
questions, but there's really not much more I want to go into each of the projects.
Do you see any reason why those two that you mentioned won't go right through?
No, not really. The plans for the LED part are almost complete. That's the 4.1, and then the pavement project, it's a $6 million project. Council wants to move forward. So yeah, like I said, within maybe 2-3 months, we're spending $10 million already.
Commissioner Robin?
Hi, thanks. Question, I think primarily for you, Joel, with the community projects, could you describe how you see the workflow going for each of the line item projects? And I'm wondering is there anything, given a manpower challenge for each of them, is there anything that the commissioners / commission can do in a liaison way with the recipients of the funding so that you understand and we understand what needs to get done in order for these somewhat small projects to actually get in place and get past a feasibility and development stage?
Right. So I haven't developed the workflow. The first step I did was try to distribute to project managers so that they can start looking at it and ask those questions. Look at the application. We provided links to the applications. Read what the project is. Use your engineering judgment to ask questions, bring them to me so that I can then start working with you as liaisons to those different applicants if need be, right? Some of them are pretty straightforward. Some of them are require more work, more investigating. There are certain projects that are being combined. There's lots of like the shade structure projects. We have 2 or 3 in different, requests. Those are probably going to be combined into one. So I gave that particular request to someone that's already working on shade structure. So we use our judgment to put the projects where I think they belong. We're trying to staff up as well. So I'm going to be looking at it. I think within 1 or 2 months, I'll have a better understanding. But I think with these meetings, it'll get me closer to getting more action on those community initiative projects, because it is, as I said, and everybody knows, there's quite the workload. So they've raised to a high level until we get to a point where we're, comfortable working on the other projects, and then we get to those. So I don't have a good workflow today on how we're going to deliver those projects.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm wondering if this is a tag along thought to Commissioner Bernstein's comment, if there's anything that we can do collectively or individually to help push things along that don't require a true technical expertise, happy to help however we can help.
Right, I think we might come back to the Measure J Commission in 1 or 2 meetings to say, these are where we need help. You don't understand what they're requesting. Can you reach out to them? And maybe we'll work like that to make contact with individual applicants. Because like I said, some of them are going to be disappointed. We may say, your estimates are so off that we're not going to be able to do your project, or there's too much to it. There's more that we need to investigate. So there's going to be a lot of that going on.
Mhm.
Guys,
Fair.
on the recreation fields LED, does that include the scoreboards or just the lighting?
It's lighting. It's just the actual physical lights.
They told me that their scoreboards don't work, and I'm like, well, have you told anybody? I don't know if they have.
I don't know. I don't know if they've actually told someone, but that's good with the new director coming on board. She's really pro capital projects. She's been involved in capital projects. She understands what's going on. We have bi-weekly meetings on all our projects, and she's invited. She understands which projects we're working on. We've given her a list of our priorities, because we've also prioritized internally major capital projects, important projects, and then we put 2 or 3 different levels of importance to projects. So she's aware of those and she's reviewing them. I think she's going to be a really good asset once we are able to talk. She gets more comfortable in her position. She will deliver more projects from what I can tell.
And Joel, who is this we're talking about?
Parks and Rec.
Oh, yes. Okay, the director of Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Commissioner Furr?
well, in regards to that, I'm really glad to know there'll be really strong leadership there. Because if you look at all the projects that Parks and Rec commissioned, many of those were sent by individuals. Not so much as a full commission with a leadership there. And so maybe next year we look at them sorting out their priorities and sending one, recommendation from that commission to us, because we had a lot of them and they were not representative of the entire commission, in my opinion. People took individual ones and perhaps did the work on them. But I think if they come up with 25 projects, they need to sit down as a commission with their leader and decide and prioritize, because we had asked to send that back to them. What really can get done, what really is important on your list. And then we get that from her or the backing of the
And to
commission.
the extent that there's other individuals outside who want to propose something, they either should send it to that commission first.
Sure.
Or if for some reason they're not getting a response, they always present it to us as well, but at least.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think most of the things we got are from people who were on Parks and Rec Commission. So somehow you just can't have 5 people, in my opinion, sending out different ideas. They need to collaborate and decide before they get to us what's really important.
Yeah.
Because I think Major J has given them a lot of money. We don't neglect them, and they need that money. People in the city want better facilities in the park. So I'm glad there's going to be leadership there again. Joelle, that sounds really positive in that direction for her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Joel, on the rest of, there's 17.8 million here. And 10 million could potentially be, and then we talked about the 3 million projects. So out of the rest of them, are those all doable, given your resources, the restrooms and the fire training facility is not going to happen really, is it?
Right, that's combined with the bigger fire department. So that's one big project.
That's more of a set aside though, then, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then the other ones, the convention center and the other ones are just plans, right?
So the convention center, most of those, I think, we haven't established exactly how the convention center is going to do these projects, but I think those are all projects that can be done within this year.
I actually think they're hoping to do them this summer.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is Nancy's waving a peace sign.
I know, peace out. Hey, I was wondering, I thought, it was my understanding, like with the Mizell Center, maybe I'm incorrect. I thought we were going to give them money to the convention center and they were gonna outsource it, but I may be wrong.
Yeah. So it's basically the convention center is going to do these projects. So they're the convention center's projects. So what I'm saying is those 3 projects could be potentially done this year.
Yeah.
Liz, when we see it again next year, a lot of these projects are going to be knocked out.
That's great. That's really terrific.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, that's great on the projects.
May I ask, where is the uplighting of the tourist center on the north end of town? We did approve that, did we not?
That's community.
That's a community
As a
project.
community, okay, thank you.
That's part of the 1.6. So out of those, there's
Mhm.
then the question of which ones have to be done by the city. And I think probably all of them were done by the city, right? I don't think there was anything that, the school could have done their own.
School,
That's right.
and then myself, Center, there are.
The Mizell was not part of the community.
That's
part
right.
of
That's
regular.
right.
Yeah.
I just lump it. I got too much information.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what we might want to have for, is just at some point when we do our master list again for the fall, is which of the current projects are not really requiring engineering time and which ones, obviously some engineering time, and which ones require your active. Because that would sort of, when we
We
look
do
at,
have to sort them out that way.
And then I'd add to that for the future, listing and tracking the community as a separate breakout on a line item basis. So on a project by project basis, so that we can see where progress is coming and where challenges might be for you.
Right, so
do
we
have a
will,
separate list. Go ahead.
yeah, we will create a project list. This was me just attempting to put something down.
Understood.
I
Understood.
didn't have, but we can, when we start getting into it in September, October, you'll be able to track project progress. It may be very slow. I may not have updates, but at least we'll see individual projects and where we're at with them.
Oh, but by the way, has anyone on screen, have you heard from the parties that got a yes from us in city council?
The current one, the only one I think I've heard from, well, 2 actually, is Mizell, and then the lighting at the not the convention center, but the tourist,
Okay, the gateway.
Yeah.
visitor center, the visitor center.
yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, the
That's
visitor
right.
center. Yeah, so you've reached out to me already as well.
Yeah,
Is there a, oh, sorry, Nancy.
So I spoke with our city attorney today because I haven't been here when we've given Measure J funding to individual organizations rather than doing the projects ourselves. So I spoke with our city attorney today and asked him if he could please come up with a brief 1-page agreement so that we could, and make it kind of generic so I can fill in the blanks, and something of the sort that, the Mizell Center is getting X amount to do the kitchen. And then we'll sign it and they'll sign it. The Measure J is giving you funds for this project and this project only. And then we just have to determine how are we going to do the follow-up.
Yep.
Do I have to go there myself and look at the kitchen, or
Right.
do we have them send us invoices? So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have something by next week. And I hope to get the checks out, within the next quarter.
I think we send you, Nancy, everywhere.
Okay, I would like that. Since the budget finally got passed, I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't think I've been to hardly any of the centers in Palm Springs yet.
Huh, Mizell's terrific. Well, I think the other thing that we should add in that agreement, for the ones that we give money to, and I think we talked about this, I don't know how the city attorney feels, but whether we could ensure that there was some kind of recognition and either when it's completion but more like permanent of that this was funded by Measure J. I mean, especially for the ones where we're giving $500,000 to the Mizell, there should be something there that says the kitchen was
Great point.
done by Measure J.
You're right.
Mhm.
I can't see anyone being opposed to it, and the more that we get it out into the community, specifically these very targeted areas where people may not have any sense of what Measure J is, the benefit, we get some recognition.
I agree.
And could I add just a couple more thoughts of, let's call it community relations, or maybe it's just pure marketing. As a separate from how, Nancy, how you document with the recipient the terms of getting funding. So this is a non-legal, non-transactional comment. I think it's important that the parties that are on the yes list hear that they're on the yes list and get a soft set of information on what conditions need to be sorted through before the project goes live. And then secondary would be how we take all of this great news, which I don't think has been packaged out and broadcast directly by the city, of this is what Measure J with the approval from City Council is now doing this.
Was there any increases in communications department or budget in the?
They have, I think there's a job listing right now posting on our website for communications manager.
So that may be because I know in the past, one of the big issues is that there was one person doing everything. And she was amenable, but the stretch thin, Amy, so that might be something on a future agenda, and I don't know what happened with the subcommittees, but if we're not supposed to do subcommittees, then we could have her come and just talk about how we could help promote Measure J. And
There's great news here, and unless you go to a couple of sources, a couple of websites, you don't know about it.
well, maybe what I would suggest is, if everyone's okay with it, I can just reach out to Amy and say, we understand that there was a lot of constraints and in terms of resources that you had, and that may change. But now especially there's lots of great news from Measure J that could be put out as you look at this coming year, to think about how it could be incorporated. So, she could be, and then we'll see, maybe that would be a little bit easier because, and we can come up with a plan that actually works within her whole communications schedule. Okay, so I guess we're gonna go on to the summer schedule. We are canceling, we have no August meeting, right?
Well, actually, before we hop on this, I don't know if this next question aligns with the agenda, but we're talking about projects and community projects. We do just need to sort through some planning steps once we come back to school in September.
Yeah, I was gonna do that
Planning
over in the commissioner, because it wasn't agendized. I was gonna put all of that in the.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, because I had a, so yeah, the August one's canceled. So the things that I had put down, if there's others to discuss, are the roadmap for the year, which is something that had been done in the past. How we're gonna handle the remainder of the community projects budget from this current fiscal year that were not allocated, but we have those mostly that we have a lot of projects that were there. How we handle the parks, and then something that came up at the joint city council meeting was a discussion about regular annual set-asides for different areas like parks. So do we want to go to city council at some point, which I guess now would be a year, or I don't know when that would be, and say, we want to ensure that going forward, where we have $6 million a year for the road paving and at least $3 million a year for the for parks or whatever other projects that come up, because those were all things that were discussed. So those are things that came up previously that I thought we could discuss now, just in terms of how we want to plan it out for going forward. Oh, and then the last thing was whether we look at a raise for the community initiated projects over time.
Yeah. There's not enough of us here tonight to talk about it, but having gone through this first time with the application and being on this small committee with Sid and Naomi, does that application really work for us? And I was thinking the billion-dollar projects, the big capital ones, sort of weight down our small community ones, and the things under $1 million, the community projects that we want organizations to avail themselves. And it would be, I think, a time to kind of review the process and be aware of how we are scoring it and what our roles are in that. So the discussion that came up this year does not come up again. And that we're really clear how we're scoring these and how it comes together. It was a very communal process, and we all were, in my opinion, independent in how we originally looked at the projects. And then as we came together as a group, we went with, the highest ones were the projects selected. But I'm not sure if the application helped us, or there could be a better way to be clearer, not so involved. I'm going to take a look at that myself again.
There's two issues, because in the past, what they did at one point was there was very specific. So it was 1 year where it was all like the sidewalks.
Right.
So it was very targeted. So in that case, people were it was only specific ones for that. Or the other, I think, which you brought up at one point is maybe they're all a certain level of project. They're all 100,000 and below, or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, the only problem then is you could have 15 small projects that have to go to engineering, which could be possible.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just thought you were talking community projects, and I do know Ms. Soto was very adamant, I believe, about the small guy getting some of Major J money and underserved communities or whatever. And we end up doing some of these wonderful major things, big city projects. So yeah, I think we have to kind of balance that. And I don't know how we separate them. We don't want little teeny things, but do we need to be more direct in what we're asking for, like they did before? They did hotspots. I don't know. I just think we need to talk about it individually and think about it a little bit before we open the whole process up. Everything can't be sent to Joelle. That's just impossible. And that's what kind of seems to be the flow. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, just as a response to that, I thought the process might have taken some criticism that, frankly, I think was just misguided, misinformed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought we did a good job of keeping the door open for anything. And the range of ideas was fresh, it was broad, and the items that didn't get endorsed were not endorsed for good reason.
Yeah,
and I don't think we skewed in a way that prevented purely little projects from occurring.
I think maybe when we get our communications director in here, manager, whatever that title is, that maybe we can start blasting on social media a little earlier.
Yes.
Seems like we were just barely keeping up this year. So I think if we plan it out, we start blasting it like 3 months before, saying, Measure J are accepting applications, we start the process earlier, it might help out a little bit.
and the other issue is that this year, we sort of worked with the $3 million worth that we had. And, going forward, that will go back to $1 million, or if there's a raise, something close to that. So it won't necessarily, we may have to sort through a lot of them, but the number of them that make it through, maybe a little bit more limited and focused. So that's another thing to keep in consideration, because we have the 1.6 million of projects and we still have a 1.4 that we have to sort out for the parks things. So there's a whole lot of projects there that cover a lot of things.
Right. So if just my opinion on the conversation, community initiated projects, I think that we have a lot of work to do now. And as you mentioned, there's other projects in parks. If you put out another call in the next year for community initiated projects, whatever we don't get to this year, it's just going to be delayed for next year. And any new project that's coming in is going to be delayed more. So I think if we stack them too close together every year, the expectations and the frustration from the applicants might grow and may be detrimental to the whole process.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that maybe it's a biannual, every 2 years you do a call for projects. And then in between those 2 years, if we don't spend all the community initiative projects, we look internally for like the smaller projects in the parks and rec. So
Mhm.
a fine balance there between asking the community for input, taking all this input, creating projects that we're not going to get to in a timely manner. So
Yeah, why don't we, I mean, I think we should have this as a discussion in September.
Mhm.
My internet's unstable, because we have to make sure that it's not just adding more projects that don't get done for years. And maybe there's other ways, like it's very targeted towards, a very focused area in which it's really one project and just is determined where it happens, or it's biannual, or another option. So I think we should discuss it, when everyone's around in September, and then we can come up with a plan for it. But also, the other issue is that one of the reasons we did the community projects like this was also because we didn't yet have city council giving us any direction on the major projects.
That's right.
But we spent 4 or 5 months working on it as a commission, which presumably next year, if we're actually going back to the way it was before, where we're going to start in September or October, really, to look at how we're going to recommend all the 23-24 budget, we're not going to have as much time to do the community initiated projects. And if that makes sense, because we now, presumably we're going to have another 20 million for 23-24 in Measure J funds, plus whatever has been carried over. And we're going to have to really spend the next fiscal year determining our recommendations for that. Some of which may be additional set asides that are already in the 5-year plan. But that's where we're going to have to do it. And so that in the past, when we did that roadmap, took 3 or 4 or 5 meetings to do that. So that doesn't leave a lot of time for going through a million community initiated projects either, from our point of view.
I think Joelle is really right on target, because nothing makes the community angrier than not seeing things get done. People say to me, well, what's Major J? And if you could really get some projects completed in the next 2 years on the road, people I know would very much appreciate that and have much more respect for the work that is done by this commission. And if you can get some of that out of your pipeline, Joelle, that would really help you too. So that may be something. And if we're not doing community projects, maybe we really work on PR as a commission. We spend a year really working on good PR. What is Major J and what has been done? And there have been some concerns with it. So much work and everything goes to our engineers.
Yeah.
And it's all of the staff, all of you are so out there by yourselves with so much work. I think there has to be a year off so you get caught up with stuff.
So the way the commission used to work in previous years is that at the September meeting, even though we didn't have we had a roadmap. Every single month or meeting was determined basically what we would try to cover. And, and that may have been a full commission review of where the current projects stand, or it may have been a review of what engineering is recommending us look at for 23-24 season. But we could also add in the community projects, and it all should work towards the May 23 city council meeting where we present everything. And we sort of have to work how we fit it all in, because if we have other commissioners who say, yes, we want to do that whole community initiated project, we have to have a real timeline come September or by October, whatever one of those meetings that says, this is the time we have to do it. Otherwise, we only have so many meetings,
Mhm.
Commissioner Craig?
Over the years, the planning commission, there've been a few of the commissions that have given like quarterly reports at the city council meeting and showing highlights of things that they're doing, almost a slideshow, and giving reports like that. And that's something that I've always felt that it's something like, why aren't we giving a quarterly report with all of these kind of things, like the $6 million and the $3.1 million that are being done, that shows people on television these projects that are being done and are being initiated by us. I think it does twofold. It also gives them an indication of what they voted for 10 years ago to give a 1% sales tax for Measure J, and shows them exactly what's going on and what this group meets about, because most people have no idea. We've talked about this before for the annual picnic, for people to know who we are. But I think these type of things like the $6 million and the free, these are things that I think should be given at least quarterly at the city council meeting. Is something that I think the newspaper would pick up a story about, because we're not getting any of that publicity. And I'm not blaming Amy. She's got a lot on her plate, but these are things that I think that the newspaper and things that we're looking at, things that we're talking about, things that people bring up at our meetings and public comments. I think this should be an ongoing story about Measure J, so we're not like a stepchild.
That's a great idea.
So why don't we, again, when I include that as an option with Amy, when I say, because it all ties into communications.
Yes,
That part of that, maybe it's a quarter, maybe once a quarter, there's a big push for Measure J, both at city council and the public. I don't know if that's the answer, but that way it sort of ties together. I know they want to limit number of presentations at the meetings, but something, like that. So what I would suggest September is, prior to September, I'll talk to Amy and we'll have a discussion about communications at the next meeting. We'll have a plan for the roadmap for the year ahead, understanding that it might depend on when council dates change, but there should always be a meeting. We'll have a discussion on community projects, both on the unspent for 22-23, on what to do going forward and a potential raise. And then we can have a discussion on whether we want to specifically allocate parts of Measure J for different areas going forward, as was brought up at city council. And I don't know if that's, I'm not speaking for or against it, but if we want to say every year we're spending $2 million in parks or whatever it is. Does
I
that?
think, I think it would be helpful too at a meeting that Joelle could give us an update and the reality of how much the project is really costing. Because when you have a problem, as you had downtown with the park, then they come to us and take a whole chunk of change. And I think we should be aware that a project is really under budgeted by the time you're working on it, and the possibility of more need from Major J would be there somewhere in the process. To me, that's work for you, Joelle, but I think it would be reality to see what things really are costing to get pushed through your pipeline. We may have to have funds to help you out get that there.
what we did in the past was at the beginning of the year, roadmap thing, engineering would give all the projects that we had approved and all the projects that they wanted us to recommend going forward. For all the ones that were approved, every month they would add whatever update there was, like
Yeah.
no update, or this is completed, or this one we are out for bid for, or this one is going to be twice as expensive as we thought. So not huge reports on each one, because it was just one document that got updated throughout the year, so that we knew if he comes back and says, oh, the recreational ball, like, whatever it is, the carpeting or whatever it is at the convention center is actually gonna cost twice as much. We can discuss as a commission, like, do we just approve that then and there? So, or recommend it then and there, rather. So that would be the things. And then when you're looking at, you already have pretty much what you want for your capital budget for 23, 24, right? I mean, that was part of your 5-year plan.
So yes, I mean, it could change throughout the year, but we do take a stab at what we think we need next in the next fiscal year as well. And
So then if you have specifically what you're asking for Measure J, then that's our discussion throughout the year, is to say, okay, what do we actually want to recommend? And again, it would be like last year, it may not, no one may listen, or they may. But I think if we have this whole plan for the whole year, we don't get sidetracked onto, are we community projects or communication, or,
I
or
agree.
coming up with new projects we can't do. Evelyn, is that okay for the agenda? Should I, because the other commissioners aren't here, so it'd be helpful if they were involved in all that discussion.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I think we actually have, in September, we have officers, right? We have to do elections. Is that correct, Nancy? It's every year, or Evelyn?
The council should be electing at the next meeting.
No, I mean, the commissioners, we as a commission elect our,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's
The
right. And that's in September. And for renewing commissioners, council will be doing so at their next meeting.
okay. And I think they extended, I think Commissioner Futter's term actually expired, but they asked to extend it until they,
But,
Your term expired on June 30th.
yes, it is.
So they've extended it, and then they're gonna, council's gonna go back to the next meeting and make decisions.
yeah. I
Hmm.
think when it happened last time, they just said, do you want to stay on? And then they didn't do any interview. They just did it.
Since you're mentioning that, Nancy, is there any updates when they're gonna fill the 2 vacant seats that have been vacant for 2 years?
No, they've decided not to fill them. I think they're trying to get down to 5 on each
Mhm.
commission.
So we're going from 9 to 5?
All commissions are gonna have, I think, a maximum of 5.
Not the airport. Airport can't do it.
Well, airport.
Airport,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Did they finalize that, or is they?
Well, I'll have to check with Monique in the city clerk's office. But I think they did. I'll
Yeah,
let you know at the next meeting, though.
I can elaborate a little bit on that. A couple weeks ago, Nancy, I think you might have been on vacation. Justin sort of gave the direction. And I apologize, I just now remembered this, but Justin sort of gave the direction to start the communication with the commissions about getting down to 5 and what that might look like through attrition and things of that nature. So I think it is sort of a done deal, and that we should be thinking about it and having discussions about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
But does that mean that people who have not served their second one?
no, I think they were trying to be very thoughtful of that. So if you have a 2-term, that you get to serve the second term, and then after that, if you're at over the 5 members, they would, through attrition, they would not
Fill
real.
that. Yeah,
But yeah, no, you would get to serve your entire term if you, or your second term.
Mm.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss?
You did a nice job at the dinner, Mr. Bernstein.
Yeah,
And
very
it
good
was
job.
Fun to sit with people in real life.
Yes.
I hadn't seen people in real life. It was nice, really nice. It was fun. It was fun.
Nice. You know,
Huh?
we had a
Yeah.
little bumpy.
but
Ally.
I don't know.
And
I would just like to see us really, really pursue, Nancy, us getting the name Measure J back out there again like it was when it was passed 10 years ago. Because it's, to me, anybody I talk to in general, they've heard the name, they don't have any idea what it's about, what it does, what's going on.
Mhm.
And we haven't had any press, and I really would like to see this 6 million and this 3 million. I'd like to see articles about this in the newspaper. You know, I mean, this is the type of thing that, you know, there's no reason why the chairman or the vice chairman can't be doing an episode of the show Eye on the Desert, talking about Measure J. These are things that I think the public should be knowing more about what's going on with this organization. They see I mean, we see the planning commission meetings are still on the air. Ours are not. So there's a priority consideration there. And I'm not saying that we're the stepchild, but this is something that the voters voted to give a 1% increase in their taxes to pay for this. And they don't even know what it's about anymore. And I really would like to see us get, you know, whether it's Amy or whoever it is, or some of our staff people to get involved and tell us what we can be doing to help. But Measure J should be sort of well known by the public, and it's not my observation.
Now, I think we talked about this before, and I don't want to say it's a given or a go, but remember we have Measure J, don't we have a Measure J tent that we were going to use at one of the Measure J picnics or one of the picnics? Somebody can reach out, we can reach out to Jasmine and ask her if you guys want to maybe go to a Village Fest and have your tent there, one or two of you. And I thought we had some type of cards that we had made up when Ariana was here regarding the all the projects that Measure J had done.
We did.
we did. I think what, you know, and what Commissioner Craig is bringing up the point is that we had lots of little ideas. We had ideas of the tents, and the signs and press releases and the social media. I think it's at the point where we have to say, what is the full plan on an ongoing basis so that it's manageable by current staff and resources with Measure J's help? And how do we just make sure everything gets slotted into that? So it's not like once a year, a big push and then sort of disappears. I mean, there was a big push when the downtown park opened, but then really nothing. And as part of the communications, one of the things I would make sure is that every time something goes before city council, it is emphasized that this is coming from Measure J fund. Because then they start saying it. And and I think most is, but a couple times they were always meant, wasn't always highlighted. And I think that would just, it's in there, then it becomes public discussion by them as well.
I would also like to suggest that if we could get from Amy in September or October, a list of just the basic upcoming staple events that the city has, public events for 22-20, from fall of 22 to fall of 23, that we can at least look at it and say, okay, here's a couple of things we'd like to be able to participate at.
That one, you could reach out to Denise Goldsby has that.
Okay, then Mr. Chair, may I contact Denise?
Yeah. I mean, some of the bigger,
Thank you, Nancy.
Nick, I think is probably better because it's the residents versus Village Fest, which also has a lot of tourists, but it could be. But things that involve a lot of residents are probably what matters the most to get the word out. Or if they're at venues that have benefited from us, So if it is, they have a lot of events in the downtown park.
Yeah.
And it should constantly be reminder and, and whether, and that should almost be, they're doing these concerts in the park. And I know they have the signs up, but whether there's more, eventually there'll be a permanent plaque about it. So,
These are all, in my opinion, great ideas to take up in the fall when we're all here. And I think if Joelle can give us an update at quarterly, people ask me, well, where are you with the library? Well, where are you with the roundabout? And, I don't know, we have to ask Joelle. And so if you kind of say, we're working on this, as a citizen, you have a better response to the community. That you can actually say that's in the pipeline and, that's a project for 224, or have some knowledgeable idea where we are in all these things. There's
was
a lot of good discussion this afternoon, I think, about this.
exactly what you're saying was part of actually the monthly packet in the past. And that way we would see it, and that way it's public record and people could see it too. And it wasn't it's not a brand new report every time because it would drive Joel nuts, but it was just the
Oh.
one report done in the beginning of the year that got, little update notes as necessary, and not major engineering notes, just public information notes. So they know.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to say, Evelyn, thank you. You're doing a great job for us, getting stuff to us. I appreciate it.
All of you at the city.
Oh,
Bravo.
I'm sorry, Joel too. I'm sorry.
And Chris and Nancy, don't leave them out.
Nancy, too. Yeah.
And Nancy, sorry.
Everybody but Chris.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we have a good
Tie on.
roadmap.
Well, yeah, if you wore a tie, it'd be a different story.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then you get some respect.
Okay, well, I think this was productive, and we
Very
have a lot of ideas for September, and we can come back, going full steam ahead. And I have to say again, I think, getting all this stuff on the budget was a pretty, amazing. Of our little part was pretty amazing, but the whole budget was pretty amazing. And there's a lot that's going to happen in this city, which is nice, and we had, so it's nice to see it happen. And hopefully when you get all the resources that you need, it'll be a little bit easier for you to do it. And again, we are here to support and help and do whatever we can as a commission, which I know is somewhat limited, but we are.
I think also I am grateful to the council that there was not a whole lot of disagreement, if at all any, in the projects, which said to me, they respected the work that was done and saw that they were important projects too. So I was appreciative of the 5 people who approved all this money also.
Yes, very much so.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if there's anything further? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Did you want to talk about summer schedule? Click like a bunny?
Well, we're not meeting in August, right?
Right.
So the next one will be September, and by that time, prior to that, we'll try and, I'll have a conversation with Amy. Sid will have a conversation with Denise. We'll try and work on a draft roadmap for the year. And we'll have those few agenda items I brought up, the community projects, the new ones, the old ones, the raise, the Parks and Rec, and how we're gonna go moving forward. So, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, typically September was basically the planning meeting for the year, and then we would get everything in October, so. Okay, well then, nothing further. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 6:28.
All stay well.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
I'll see you in 2 months.